Hello dear friends, this video is about very important subject, how they have weaponized the porn industry. The reproductive function and the reproductive system of the human body is superior to the other systems, like for example the digestive or the circulatory, in the sense that it has more direct access to the life force, the kundalini of the body, than the other systems. That's why, for example, when people make love, they get for very short period, for a minute or so, even into, should we say, altered state of consciousness at the peak. Few other simple examples illustrating that love and its physical expressions are directly wired to the life force, also called kundalini, is that when people are in love with somebody and want them physically, they also create masterpieces of art, and that's because their kundalini is excited and it pumps up more of the divine, creative, in every way energy of God into the human body. And probably the best example is that when people, through meditative or religious practices, somehow get divine revelations, very often this is basically an orgasmic experience. So we could say that the reproductive system of the human body is the most near to the divine out of all the systems, out of all the modules that are in the human body. The sworn enemies of the human race, the parasites, they have taken special care to target this gate to the divine, which all of us have, but many are having it shut down and locked up without even understanding, because the parasites get sure this knowledge is not taught in school, but they themselves know it very well, and that's why they have heavily weaponized the adult movie industry, because once they get control of one's sex life, they control the entire human being effectively. Needless to say, all the biggest adult entertainment outlets and websites are owned by ish people. Basically, the content of this video is provided by a gentleman who, after seeing the first part about Tantra, shared his own experiments, which he did years ago, before he even heard about Tantra, and his observations fully confirm the tantric knowledge and are a wonderful illustration how does it apply in ordinary day-to-day life. So basically, this man, by birth, he happened to be of rather much higher than average masculine drive. So even when he was young, also because his prime goal in life is spirituality, he thought, I spend most of my life force basically driven by sex-related things, to look at women, think about, make plans, and all kinds of arrangements, and all the dreams they're around this single point always. So a few times he just got tired of all that and decided, I cannot have all my life just rotating around a single point. I'm gonna stop shooting for some time and let's see what's gonna happen. Since normally before that this was happening at least a few times a day, in the beginning, 1 or 2 weeks, yes, he was restless and he wanted to shoot again, but he did not. And much to his surprise, after that, after the second week or so, he did not go crazy because the eternal thirst was not quenched, but instead he truly started being a master of his wishes. He was not tossed crazily back and forth by uncontrollable wild passions, but instead he became the master of his body, and it was up to him how to use the energies for his own enjoyment. And he even noticed many things which escaped him about women before that. Before that, women were simply sex objects and nothing else. And only after he abstained for some time, he understood that they have personalities, they can be also spiritual people, they can be friends, and in some cases he could even learn from them. Yeah, because spirituality is the prime focus of his life. He was like ignoring half of the population on Earth because they were in another category, sex object. He also noticed this vicious circle that the more men get accustomed to this thing of watching porn and then using the do-it-yourself method, the more they want to do it, to the point that it turns into severe lifelong addiction. And this has a terrible, devastating effect on the personality of the man his entire life, because the combination of porn and do-it-yourself all the time is not a real substitute for normal physical love the way God created it originally. That is a different thing. That's with a lady, and there are proper exchanges of yin and yang during the entire play. After a normal play, the men are tired, but they recover, let's say in maximum a couple of hours. But when they get addicted to this porn style, all the time shooting, then the recovery takes much longer, and practically they do it again before they even recover. And at the end of the day, they are constantly submerged in this mental fog of tiredness, and most importantly for the parasites, indifference. Dense mental tamasic fog of ignorance and indifference. Doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter if they implant me, doesn't matter if I get the vaccine, nothing matters. So the devil will hunt them down with ease. How difficult it is to catch a chicken which is in a cage. While if they were a real man with properly functioning kundalini, they would be as easy to catch as a free eagle in the sky. If one spills the cup of Hermes too often, but in normal circumstances, in a loving relationship with one's partner, and not while looking at a device which emits devilish frequencies and seeing images of possessed people, prostitutes and hired men, women forced into prostitution by slave owners. That is still not that bad. During the sex play, Kundalini is very much opened for external influences, and the company of these criminal circles is absorbed into the personality. Their vibrations are imprinted even stronger than they would normally be, because we always take some imprint from the people whom we meet. So basically, the main task of the porn industry is to merge men into fog and render them useless for any type of fight. Now back to the gentleman who was making these experiments. After a few weeks without shooting, he noticed a tangible increase of energy. For example, he could lift much heavier things. He started performing all kinds of tasks, all kinds of work, way more efficiently. And also he started having this feeling that he's much stronger than other men who previously, when he was shooting, he would estimate them as more or less as strong as him, or even stronger. Like it is said, for example, like if two men fight, not always the stronger wins. It wins the one who is more angry, because the energy of anger gives him strength. And sometimes a weaker guy, when he's really overtaken by some sort of passion or mission or belief in something, he can punch and beat up even a man who would normally be stronger than him. Now, anger is only one of the sources of this type of internal impulse and sudden influx of energy. and the anchor is also a tamasic source of such energy. However, sattvic sources of masculine power exist as well, and that's simply knowing one's true self, the feeling that we are incarnations of God and we fully possess also His quality of justice. This is the sattvic source of masculine power inside. And as explained in the first part, one should excite Kundalini, but not let the precious seeds out too often. So that's the Vedic view. And getting back to the story of the gentleman who was telling me his observations, he also told me that he got a Muslim advice on these things, which basically mirrors the Vedic view, says the same thing with different phrases. So a Muslim man advised him once that if you decide to look for a good wife one day, when you decide it's time, just reserve all the seeds from then on and don't let them out until you don't find a good wife. And otherwise, if you just continue playing in front of the computer, you will find a dirty woman for a wife. So, after keeping the precious seeds inside for weeks, our character noticed also some changes in the way people and women relate to him. All of a sudden, much more women were after him. And also because he is the type of person who can see the auras of himself and other people, he noticed that his aura became much bigger and stronger. And that's why the people around started finding him more attractive. So in Vedic times, when the Tantra scriptures were written, there were kind of two paths. Either one has a standard sex life, do as you feel, or one abstains and uses it for purifying consciousness and becoming even more sattvic. But in the current situation, this tantric knowledge is becoming even more relevant because a third path appears, a very dangerous one, the path of the perverts. The demons, the enemies of the human race, they want to make us all perverts. This is very important for them, because sexual perverts, they cannot properly channel yin and yang, the energies which are the basis of the benevolent, the beautiful creation of the Lord, the non-perverted one. So the demons know once they disturb the flow of yin and yang, they can make the people crazy. And it's already happening. In some surveys, a third of the young people already identify with something not quite godly. And the people who have fallen prey into this propaganda and advertising, surveys show that they don't even understand what is the meaning of a, for example, biological man or biological woman. These terms are no longer clear to them. They're so confused that they don't know what is the relation of like a biological woman to the people they see around themselves. Once somebody's mind is bamboozled to a state that he can't even figure out what is a man and what is a woman, obviously he won't be able to figure out even what is good and bad. And such a person will go himself to the slaughterhouse. The upcoming One World passports, they could have a different name for them, but that will be the meaning, the World Passport. That will be like a ticket inventory number for the slaughterhouse, and people will take them voluntarily. Churches and cathedrals are being colored and decorated to celebrate perversion. The priests are already twisted and even preach that God is pervert, which is in a way true, because the God of that preacher is a pervert. It's not our God, not the benevolent one. but the god of that preacher is twisted. People who fall in the trap of the adult entertainment industry become insecure and docile. If you decide to take the sattvic path and increase the level of sattva in your body using the tantric method, you have to say no to porn, that's for sure. And also keep in mind that the results will come depending on how high is your drive. Like the example of the gentleman from this video, he achieved tangible results just in a couple of weeks. But people with weaker Kundalini will need months to achieve the same result because simply the channel through which the divine energy flows is more narrow. The modern people admire their ancient ancestors for their architectural achievements, but that is very superficial because the ancient monuments are just the tip of the iceberg. Something way more important than building megaliths and pyramids is the ability of the ancient ancestors to understand the human psyche. And that's still in the times when the benevolent gods were openly mixing with the earthly people to educate them. And that's why they have this intricate and precise knowledge of how the human body, the most perfect machine ever on earth, functions and what are the fast shortcuts for accessing the advanced settings panel of the human body.